What's going on, you guys? It's so great to be back. I'm sorry we were the neglectful parent that left for the store and left you guys alone, but we are back. So much has happened, so much to talk about, but vacations were needed because we need to reset our charge. Kayla, gotta start. How are you doing? What's been going on with you?
Oh, I am great. I am excited to. We are recording on July 4th, be off for a holiday. In news, you don't usually get to be off on holidays. So I requested off this day last December, and I didn't know what I'd be doing, but I knew it would not be work. But it's spending time with you guys and talking sports and restarting the timer of how long our last episode was. So.
Oh my God, two weeks ago. And look, guys, so much has happened before. When we left, we thinking like, oh, NFL is gonna be boring. Everybody's off on vacations, but then our team decided to make a blockbuster trade. So we're gonna talk about that. I'm into Love Island USA. It's a toxic show. I think you're into Happy Face. We're going to talk all about that. We're going to talk about this MLB All-Star voting because I have some problems. Okay, I'm not going to lie. We're going to get to all that, but we got to start with our first topic, which is talking about some of the new shows that have grabbed our attention since we've last popped on. Now, I mentioned I'm all in on Love Island USA, and my girlfriend actually sent me an article today that said one of the casting people on the show got caught up in a racial, like something she said in the past that popped up. And so that's the thing, people, when you do these shows, like if you have anything from your past that is shady or just be careful because you never know. This is why my mom always told me, like, just be careful what you post on the internet because it can always come back to like nothing good comes when you rant on Twitter, when you rant on, or don't drink and do social media. Don't if you know you're a person that you might talk a certain way behind closed doors with your friend, you may not mean any harm. We just live in a society where everybody takes some stuff to heart and it will come back and bite you. So one of the favorites are actually in a crisis meeting right now to determine if she's going to continue on the show. But I got into this show. It's crazy because I'm not really like the drama reality kind of like producer driven shows where like you got people who are stage mad at each other and, oh, let's push this person to do something to make it because it's dramaful. But we are so invested because it's so terribly bad, such a terribly bad show that everybody's talking about it. So we're just like, all right, let's see what the fuss is about. And we've gotten so invested to the point where, like, first off, we think Hoda and we think that Taylor should be off the show. I'm not sure if you've looked at it, Kayla, or if you're familiar with the show, but basically they bring all these folks on an island and they're trying to find love after the island. So throughout the process, you're getting hit with bombshells, which are like new people that come in. They're trying to basically fuck up what people have going on in the villa right now. Then they're getting voted off in the process. So if you don't have a couple, you basically are at risk of getting voted off, and it's up to the islanders. So then they throw in like monkey wrenches where they have America vote for who they want off, and it's gotten so messy because there have been like what the Islanders think is deserving people who got sent home, and while like crappy people get to stay. But I'm like, that's all shows. Because I even speak to my girlfriend. I'm like, the crappy people always stay because they drive the ratings. Like,
yes, have you seen Survivor?
like literally people who like cause the most chaos. We talk about it, but it's like in a messed up way. Our brains are kind of computerized to be like, well, you know what? I'm gonna stick around next episode because I want to see what happens to this person. But nobody wants like a boring, happy-go-lucky. I think you can afford like one or two couples like that, but you can't have the full cast be that way because then there would be no show. So we're at the point now where we have like 4 people on the show. Like I think Taylor, we're not really the biggest fans of like Ace and Shelly, and also we're not really the biggest fan of Hoda because Hoda should have went home a week ago, but she sometimes slivered her way through the elimination process and still here and it's like going behind people's backs, stealing people, and then she's not really a girl's girl. So as you can see, I'm invested. My girlfriend invested. This is like our show we've been watching. So I don't know if I've sold you, but like, yeah, we're invested. We're here for the toxic. Like, let's get toxic. Let's do it.
Yeah,
let's do it.
I've seen all the memes. I've heard all the conversations about Love Island, and I have not watched a single second of it. Probably is going to stay that way. But I did start a show off of my sister's recommendation. It's called Happy Face. It revolves around the Happy Face Killer. He was a serial killer, Keith Hunter Jesperson.
The
And
trailer. I was curious about this one.
yes, and there was a podcast and a book previously on it, but it explores how his daughter, after years of being apart from him, because I mean he's in prison, is drawn back into his life when he reaches out to her job and says, "Hey, I'm in prison for 8 murders, but there's actually 9, and I'm only going to tell you about the 9th if it's like directly to you." So obviously now his daughter Melissa is in this predicament of, wanting to preserve her mental peace, her life as she knows it, all the stuff she's worked for. But if there's somebody else dead out there, or more to this serial killer saga, then she battles with trying to do that. She does end up meeting with him. I haven't finished it. I'm a couple episodes in, but finds out that there is another person who was murdered, and there is somebody actually on death row for the murder that is not her father. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. And it is interesting to see just like how it was so easy for authorities to go down the wrong path and convict this guy, even though he is innocent. So I think I like it because it's suspenseful, it's mystery, but it also relates to work, and it's just really interesting to see different sides of investigations and just what really goes on behind closed doors, because you never know.
And can you believe, like, with these type of shows, like DNA, right, has been such a pivotal invention for the ability to fight crime, because there were years where these cases went cold because there was a hair follicle, there was a fingerprint miss, there was a some type of sexual encounter, right, and fluids that went unnoticed, but they didn't have the technology then to convict the right people or to find the suspect and bring these families justice. So I have seen it. It's on kind of my list of things to watch. So I guess once I watch it, we can talk more in depth about it. But I love investigative. I've been like kind of an investigative junkie, especially with cases that involve like mass murder, serial murder, because it's like I'm always curious. It's like what typically like these people who do these heinous crimes are like, wow, you really thought this through. You're clearly a sociopath, like to be able to do that and go through with it. I couldn't really fathom like wanting to target somebody and just go through with it. And then like some of the killings are like so graphic and just like, you're like, well, why did you stab somebody like 10, 15, 20 times? Like, why are you, go ahead.
Yeah, or even in this case, like he has multiple children. Like he would go, he plans this, executes them, no pun intended, and then goes back to his family like nothing happened, comes back from being a trucker on the job, and
crazy.
Lives 2 lives, and they never suspect, and it goes into you didn't think your husband was acting a weird way, or you didn't think your dad did something weird, or when he gave you this gift it didn't throw up a red flag. Like, no, if you're 10 years old, why am I going to think my dad who travels the country bringing me back a gift from a place he went is weird? Like,
and it's like, it's crazy because these aren't like people where you can look at them and be like, oh, that's a red flag. He looks like he could do something. These are like your neighbors. These are like people that are, involved in the community. I think that there was a story that I was kind of really invested in with on YouTube, like I think it was like a Kansas murder. He murdered like 9 people, and this guy was in the church and had the manifesto of how he did it on a DVD with him, that the FBI, the case went dead for like 15 years. They found his manifesto and convicted him. And this is like some ordinary gentleman that you walk next to every day and pray with, and you would never think like, oh, wow, he's capable of doing that. But it just goes to show you that, we are all capable of dark things, but there's always a choice as to whether you want to follow through with it. So I'm really interested to see kind of like how, watch it and kind of see how the investigators cracked it. And bravo to the investigators, because they dedicate their lives, like literally a portion of their livelihood, to go investigate, go to the ends of America, and sometimes to the ends of the earth, to go interview people that can kind of crack open a case, or go to different lab facilities that can help enhance like the evidence to kind of give them a specific or a accurate read on who the possible suspect could be. So that's pretty cool. I'm glad we're both into like you can have these conversations about investigators and
Yeah,
stuff. It's interesting. It's interesting to me. I love it. I love it.
it's not just
Um,
sports. We can talk
no,
about
it's not. We can really talk about anything. I love it. So I want to. We're gonna go into a couple of small things that have happened in our lives that made a big impact that would otherwise go unnoticed. Do you want to start here, or do you want me to go?
Yeah, sure, I got it.
Okay.
So just something small that developed. My birthday's at the end of the month. It's on a Wednesday, so I'm trying to figure out what I wanted to do. I ended up deciding to work my normal shift that night. I'll have the morning and everything to do whatever, but taking off the next 2 days. And so I was like, oh, should I like burn another day and just not go in? And was really mulling that. And when it came up, like it wasn't even me trying to talk and like get somebody else's opinion, but my mom was like, oh, I could switch, at work and we could like go to lunch. And my sister was like, I usually work at night, I usually work in the morning, but like I could ask to work at night that day. And
Yeah.
dad was like, oh yeah, if we all go to lunch, like I can just take a longer lunch break. And I know how strict taking off at my job is and how little time I have. So the fact that, my family, it just seemed like they didn't give a second thought. They know I work at night and they can't spend the whole day with me, but they were like, yeah, we can move some stuff around and do this.
Yeah.
So, I was kind of just like, oh, I'll probably wake up and just do my normal stuff in the morning and go to work. It'll be another day. But it sounds like, I'll get to pick a place to go to lunch and spend some time with family. And I think that's really all I want on my birthday anyway. And yeah, it'll just be another day, but I do get to go to the beach after for a very long weekend. So I'm looking forward to that. But yes, I will be in the heart of the burning Baltimore on my birthday. Be
Well,
nice.
there you go.
Homicide.
First off, whenever it's the birthday is next week coming up.
July 30th.
30. Oh, you got a minute. So
Yes.
we'll celebrate for you before then. But no, that's really awesome. I think that's so important. I feel like Jerry Springer at the end of the show when he's having the monologue of like a serious moment. But no, seriously, family is so important. I mean, regardless of what you do, as you get older, you realize how important family can be because you start to see your friends talk about, oh, well, mom's no longer there. Like I not calling. It's really sad stuff. I mean, it's part of the adult, being an adult, they don't really talk about. It's kind of, I mean, we always knew, but like going through the personal experience of like growing up and you're seeing people get older, you're seeing ailments with the family members that, whether it's like, they're taking sick or they're, they can't walk the same anymore or they need assistance doing things. So when you have those opportunities to spend time with your family, I think that work should always take a backseat. I mean, I know work's like, you should always be there. So always, but it's like, sometimes you got to set those boundaries as to like, what, today I'm going to put, myself and what I want in my personal life first. So I envy you for that because I feel like a lot of people don't do that or don't feel like they should do that until it's too late. And, next thing you know, somebody's like seriously sick and it's like an emergency situation. Like, dang, like I should have, really been there to catch up. And then also like even our younger siblings, right? Just having the opportunity to see them grow up as well, because time goes by so fast. Would you believe my eldest niece is going to be a senior this year?
Oh.
I am old, but value that time, like, because you just never know. I think that's so awesome that you're doing that. And do you have anything particular you're going to do for your birthday in Baltimore? You say you're going to speed. It's going to be around.
I thought about, I started looking at places now. There's a couple of restaurants that I, might consider going to, but no, just I guess hang out with them starting in the later morning and then until I work at 3. So, yeah.
All right. Well, that's what's up. That's what's up. Mine's a little bit more personal. I recently got a new credit card. This is huge for me because I was always the nervous guy about credit cards because I watched my sister and my brother go. They pretty much like ran up their credit cards and they never paid them back. And my mom's like, never do this, never do this. So I had one when I was in college and I just did not have the wherewithal to understand that, like, okay, when you buy stuff, you actually have to pay it back plus the interest. So I paid it back, but I never paid back the interest. So it closed down. And there's this thing called credit, right? When you get older, your credit score, your ability to be able to do stuff, own stuff, take out loans, it went down. So it took a lot of courage for me this year. And I talked to my girlfriend about it. We're just like looking at things. Of course, this is something I am really serious with. But, we're talking about houses. We're talking about all the stuff that you have to be able to have a great credit score. So I'm working on my credit score, right? It could always be better. But having a credit card to me was an important first step because, to be able to do anything, I no matter what, I know people say like, money isn't everything, but your ability to do stuff in life depends on some type of financial transaction, whether it's credit or debit. And most of the times, like, especially when you're in a relationship, you're trying to make large investments, right? You don't want to, be kind of delayed by not being able to do something. And that's how I was, honestly, for a while, because I was always like, babe, can we wait on this and stuff like that. But I really understood through my own research and understanding of credit cards how important it is to have that the ability to walk into a situation and just be able to take care of stuff. So that was a big step for me, because it's been like 6-7 years since I actually had a legitimate credit card, ever since that account closed and I got nervous to open another one. So I think this was just a big moment for me in my life, because, you always hear the bad things about credit cards, but there are some good things, the perks that come with it, the points you can get on flights and hotels and stuff like that. And, I think what I kind of told myself is like, okay, I'm just going to make small investments so that I can easily pay back. So like, go to the grocery store, spend $50, easy, I can pay that back. And then, when I feel more comfortable, then I can, book a hotel or something when that's like $200-$300 and then go. So we're just kind of taking baby steps. But here at the Johnson residence here in Silk Springs, we're taking the credit card route. I'm really happy about that. So, I think that's a really cool moment for me as well.
So what carrier did you decide on then?
Capital One. I got an Amex card.
Right. Nice.
Yeah. So I'm really happy about it. The limit on it was $1,500. So I was like, oh, that's pretty cool for just starting out. That's really, so, just kind of continuing to use it and just kind of see where it goes. And hopefully this time next year I'll be like on platinum. Like, yeah. I get to walk into the airports and go to the lounges to get all the great food and laugh at you guys, eat my peanuts as I'm laughing at all the people below me walking with their suitcases. Like, I wish you. And now I'm growing and I'm still carrying my suitcase around, but I have a warm thing of peanuts and temperature boiled order in my hand as I'm watching this happen. But it's cool. It's a really cool experience. I don't know what your experience is with credit cards, but I mean, it's my background story.
Yeah, I've always been anal with credit cards. I do have a Discover and I do have an American Airlines card. And, getting just like small perks, whether that's, you never know when. This is a grave example, but if somebody dies and you need to travel somewhere, if you have points built up in miles, that you've been working towards, you can just move them over in a time where flights would be really expensive. So I've done that a couple times, or, I put rent on a credit card one time. You're not supposed to do that, but you have it in your account and you get points for every dollar. Like suddenly you have 800 points or whatever it is. And that's like an easy way to build up to be able to use flight credits and everything. But my limits when I first started, probably before COVID, was, $1,500, $2,000, and one was $6,200. I never get close, but I at least have that option should my life go crazy. So it's give and take. You have to be dedicated to holding yourself accountable, and I think that's like half the battle.
You said a key word. You said accountability, and I think that's a great segue word into what we're about to talk about. Accountability, because 2 weeks. We got to go back down memory lane to set this up. Our second episode, we literally said, "This is not gonna happen. No, we're not gonna do this." And then our Dolphins and our Steelers, we got on the phone and we decided, hey, Mike McDaniel, Greer, look. We're going to move off of Minka Fitzpatrick and a 5th-round pick. And you guys give us Jalen Ramsey. Not just give us Jalen Ramsey. We're going to give him a $1.5 million pay raise. And Juanu Smith. And we're going to call it a day. So this was the big news that happened this past week in the NFL, where it's supposed to be quiet, right? This is right before training camp in a couple of weeks. No news. And I'm thinking like, oh, my Steelers are going to be just, trying to get the TJ Watt situation together. But then we make this trade. And I'm like, I don't know how to feel about this. I really don't. I don't know. What I will say is this. I mean, there's a delusional mindset for me, which is why I'm delusional. David today is a delusional Steelers fan. Of like, on paper, it's like, wow, we should go to the Super Bowl. We're going to, stand away to 7. We're about to have the Lombardi. We got Aaron Rodgers. We got Julius Ramsey. We got, Jalen Ramsey. I'll say Julius. Jalen Ramsey, excuse me. I'm in basketball, not football. But, and, we got JPJ. We got Patrick Queen. We got we got DK Metcalf. It all looks great on paper if it was 2019, 2020. We have officially become the retirement home of the NFL. Matter of fact, Kayla, I want to share something with you real quick, and I think you'll even appreciate. You'll even appreciate that. I'm going to share my screen real quick to you because I think this is going to be the hype up video for us next year. Hold on, let me go to it. I want to set this up for you because I feel like this is going to be the hype video for us next year as we roll out onto the field because we've officially become. We went from being kind of the middle of the pack, oldest team, right, to being to being a kind of a rather young team to being an old team in a matter of seconds. So I'm going to show you this real quick. Let's go ahead and get that. Put this on stage real quick. Sorry, yeah. We're not there yet. We're not talking about this. Yes. This is our pretty much our hype video.
I wish I was out there. I'm tired. Why not? Randy Moss.
What? Dan Marino? You're right. Hey, Grandpa. Grandpa? Yeah. I still got it.
22.
It kills me.
Delay game number 13. Let's see.
Hey. I need that senior discount.
So literally, like, I'm gonna stop this on a. So literally, like, this is our team went from being a young team to being probably the third oldest team within this summer. We have Aaron Rodgers, who's on AARP right now. We have DK Metcalf, who's still 28, but I mean, what he's going to do with an expiring, younger. I'm sorry, I'm negative Nancy Steeler fan. I'm also delusional, but I just don't like it for us. We can get into the Dolphins side. It's like, I just don't like it for us because, like, now on paper, it's either AFC Championship game or bust. And let's be realistic, they're not better than the Bills still. They're not better than the Ravens still. They're still not better than KC. And dare I say, I mean, you're in a dogfight with Denver and, whoever else kind of takes that next step forward. And here's the sad part. It's like, I came on this year with the full intentions that the Steelers were just going to say, hey, look, we're going to just add some pieces, make it look like we're doing something. But, we're going to prepare for 2027, 2026, 2026, because the draft's in Pittsburgh. So I'm sitting here like, that's going to be kind of what we're on this year. But now it's like, if this does not work out and we look like a 9-8 team, 10-7 team, and we get bounced in the first round, it's like, you got to put Mike T on the hot seat. It's really no excuse. And it's just that situation because of the type of team you have on paper. It looks like we're going for it. And depending on how these teams work, how the team gels, what the defense looks like. And then the big elephant in the room. Here's the crazy part, Kayla. We sign everyone else, and we give Omar Khan, our general manager, a 3-year extension before we pay TJ Watt, who is 6-1 when we're on the field when we have him. Without him, the Steelers are 1-11. We do that deal before we pay TJ Watt his money. So I'm going to, in closing, what I know and I think it's going to happen is I think they're going to tell TJ, hey, sorry, bud, you're going to have to play on an expiring contract, and then we're going to franchise tag you. And then if you leave in 2 years, cool, we'll just eat it and go, make it up in the draft, but you're going to have to hang around. And I don't think that's going to rub like half of the Steeler fan base against each other because everybody loves TJ. But devil's advocate, he wants $41 million and he wants it over 5 years, and he's going to be 36 by the time that contract's up. So it's not really a great contract later on, and it could put the Steelers in a hole in year 2 and 3 where they won't be able to make much moves, and it's not good. So I don't like it for my Steelers. I think it's like a very big gamble what they're doing. This could be either be a great year where we can knock on the door of an AFC championship, or this could be one of those we're going to be really bad in years to come because we made a lot of bad, un-Steeler-like moves. So that's what I think about this deal, and I close my case.
Yeah, there's a lot of a lot to unpack. I feel like the TJ Watt thing can be it's a whole segment, its own episode. But this screams Los Angeles Rams when they went out and got Matthew Stafford, and then they did win that Super Bowl, but then they won like 5 games, and they've been mediocre ever since. They went out and did what they said they were going to with the move. They said they got Stafford to win a Super Bowl. Boom, done. And that's what it's feeling like in Pittsburgh. You're saying AFC Championship. They got to make the Super Bowl. Like that, from an outsider's perspective, the Steelers never just throw in a season because with Mike Tomlin, they're never under 500. So they're always hanging around. But the window, you want to be in the sweet middle spot. Well, you're all the way over here now. Like, this is your chance. Aaron Rodgers has come out and said, yeah, this is probably my last year. And it's like, oh, okay, well, then we got to hurry up and get everybody over here. And that's what they're doing. So, they don't win it this year. They are going to be screwed for the following years. I think they are in general. But, a lot of time to tell. But you brought up something interesting about, contracts and salaries and why, Jalen Ramsey's getting a raise, or what are all the little nitty gritty details? And from a Dolphins perspective, both moves make sense, right? So the Dolphins had an issue with the contract with Jalen Ramsey. He was going to cost more than $17 million in dead cap for this year alone, and then the cap hit in the next 3 years will reach $30 million just for him. And he was due $19 million at week 1 this year. And if he stayed in Miami, he would get more than $25 million total. So that, for somebody who's older and not producing as much as arguably he should, in my opinion, they needed to get out of that bad contract that they signed. And same thing with, oh my gosh, Jonnu Smith. I didn't put the notes down, but he wanted around $12 million a year, and he had one good season last year. Like he's jumped around to multiple teams, and he did set records for the Dolphins for tight ends, but when you're the biggest human on the field and you have injuries to running backs and receivers week in and week out, the Dolphins offense was not healthy. So if you're going to tower over somebody and you're going to barrel your way through somebody, you're going to gain these extra targets. And I'm not, downplaying the great yards that he had. I mean, he single-handedly helped us win, at least the Jets game in overtime when he caught like almost every pass on the drive and the touchdown to win in overtime. Like, he was beneficial, but it's unrealistic to think that he's going to repeat that, especially with all the mouths to feed in Miami. And we needed to spend money elsewhere. Like, we cannot pay him $12 million to just be mediocre. So I think that it was actually a good move. The fact that Darren Waller came out of retirement is a whole nother level we don't have to talk about. But going back to Jalen Ramsey and Minkah Fitzpatrick, the cap numbers are important here with the contracts, because with Minkah coming back, it decreases the dead cap through 2027, and it goes all the way down to under $7 million by that time. And they only have to pay Minkah $6 million. Pittsburgh is covering the rest of the contract. So, shipping off somebody who they would have to pay a lot more for, to having that team also help pay for the guy coming in, is a win-win. And they keep the cap hit at just under $7 million for the next 2 years also. So that the Dolphins were shipping off contracts. They were not necessarily, I don't know if they got better. Time will tell. But they got better with the shitty contract situations that they continue to put themselves in. They don't get a pass for that, but they're at least, they found something.
No, I agree. And here's the crazy part. Years ago, the Steelers and Dolphins made a trade for Minkah in the 2019 season. I think he was pick number 11 that year. We traded a first-round pick to go get him and had him pretty much in the prime, right now in the prime of his career. Now, he hasn't really been as effective the last couple of years. From the Steelers' vantage point, they're looking at it like, oh, his production doesn't match what we're paying him. So Jalen, though his play has declined since even his LA Rams days, he's still giving you some type of production worth the contract. So that's where it was, this per Gulak that covers the Steelers, right? But I just got a question for you. Like, what is the direction of the Dolphins? Like, I I'm gonna set the question up as like, okay, you guys got Mike McDaniel, right? He's shown that he's an incredible play caller. And I just kind of feel like these moves, these pieces, though you guys are stripping back contracts, like what is the direction this year? Like, are you guys going to be okay with maybe possibly being like 8-9, 9-18 because, or being fighting for second, but not really be able to get over the Bills hump? Or are you guys kind of like waiting for future years coming up in the draft to kind of, replenish some of what you guys have lost and get younger? Like, what is the plan? Because from afar, I don't know right now.
I mean, I think obviously every team's plan is to win a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
But I think I'm hopeful that with them successfully getting a return for contracts that they know they put in a shitty place, they didn't win at the win now times of those contracts, right?
Yeah.
So it's a positive for Dolphins fans who I feel like have suffered through these bad contracts. I mean, I feel like my whole life since I've been following football. And, they did something they don't normally do. They made the situation better.
Mm-hmm.
However, their defense is going to be young. I think they have a lot. They have a lot of leadership. Obviously, corner is going to be a question, but it was funny. Everybody was laughing at the name Storm Duck, who got drafted last year. But he could very well be opposite or one of the corners week 1, and I'm not too upset about that. There are some no names back there, him included, Cater Kohu. He's come on the last couple of years, but not where you go, oh, who are the lockdown corners in the league? Like, they're going to be at the bottom. They're going to be at the bottom of your list. And so I think, Tyreek Hill's getting older. We did pay Jalen Waddle. I mean, Darren Waller's old. Our line has a lot of question marks, and I feel like that has been what I've preached for the last decade. But I do think the offense is in a better position than it has been in a really long time. But there are key question marks on both sides of the ball that make you think that they can't compete. It's really they need to stay healthy on defense. If Jalen Phillips and Bradley Chubb can play a full season, that we beat Buffalo. We beat different teams that we lost narrowly to. And I know all the teams can say, hey, if you just stay healthy, like, we're great. We're going to be great. But the injury bug has affected the Dolphins more than most teams in recent years.
Oh my God. Yes, has it. I remember watching the Hard Knocks when you guys were like calling people off the couch to come play defense for you guys. Literally. Yeah. I think
I don't know if that really answered your question, but I think they have all the people in place to make a run. I do think Mike McDaniel gets fired if they don't win a playoff game.
Yeah.
So I don't want that to be the bar, but it needs to at least be a bar. They need to win a playoff game. They haven't won a playoff game since I was like 2, I think.
Oh, geez. And we as Steelers fans are complaining because it hasn't happened since 2016. I think in closing, both teams, right, are in a direction where if it doesn't go their way, there will be some type of coaching or off front office change coming, whether it's next year or the year after. So we're going to leave that one there. We got a lot to talk about in the world of sports that have been quite the head scratchers, right? And basically it's like, some things that just don't make sense. I know this is an old story, but I want to go on my rant for like 60 seconds. I'm going to move on, right? This is an article we're looking at right now. It's about the 2025 NBA draft. There was a prospect whose name was Ace Bailey, really fantastic young player that I think can do well. He was drafted to the Utah Jazz. I think he didn't really take the whole pre-draft situation serious. And let me say this, I feel like we're starting to get to that level now where we're starting to get a lot of these entitled players who are coming in and getting drafted. Prime example, I think the Bengals had a defensive lineman that they just drafted. He's holding out because he doesn't like the money and the contract situation. It's like, you are in the league. Like, that is a big deal, whether you are playing in for the Jazz or for New York. Like, yes, like, we want to all go to an ideal situation where it's a good team. But sometimes typically when you're being drafted, you're being picked by teams that were not good early in the go rounds, just kind of the beast, right? And I think you're more of a legend if you can go turn those teams around. Then the bigger teams are going to come get you later on. It's just how it works within the draft. But this kid saying like, "Oh, I don't want to go to Utah," basically holding out to the last second. He had to report to training camp for the summer league games. It's just crazy to me. I just hate it for the leagues. It's going to set a precedent where you're going to start seeing people come in and be like, "Well, you know what? I don't like the team I got drafted to, so I'm gonna make it known. I'm gonna, and mind you, he hasn't even met the fans yet. This is their first impression of him walking across the stage. It's like, oh, well, he doesn't even want to be there. So why should we even cheer this guy on? Like, fuck this guy, like, whatever. But it's just crazy that, we're starting to see this more and more across our sports. So started with Ace Bailey. And now, like I said, I have to look it up, but I think there's a kid from Texas A&M, Shamar or something, Shakur, one of his last names. But he's kind of in a similar situation where he is with his team, but he's holding out for money. I blame NIL. I really do. It's an NIL's fault. They did it, and
Yes.
and I'm saying to it. So those are my thoughts on that. Your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I don't have too much to add. I think you covered that really well. I did when I was reading about him, since this was David's topic, I came across, when this happened to the Curry family, and I did think there were a lot of parallels to,
hold on, you froze.
That story. And
oh
okay,
no, you froze. We're looking at your face is like you were happy. So I'm gonna remove. You can see me. Let me remove you and then from the stage and then put you back. Hold on. Let's see if that does the trick. Let's see. No, that's black. Oh my god.
oh no.
Come on.
Can you hear me?
Don't. I can hear you. We want to see you though. Hold on. Remove you again. All right, okay. Hold on. Let's do this. I'm going to send you a quick invite via mail. Just go ahead and accept this one and come back. Sorry, guys. When you do these shows, it's technology sometimes. Sometimes things will freeze. So I'm sending you real quick. All right, I just emailed you. I'm gonna kick you. Come back with the new link, okay? All right. So while we're handling technical issues here. Okay, she hopped out, guys. So don't worry, we're gonna get her back. We just wanted to see her screen froze for a second there. So, but yeah, man, it's crazy, kind of what's going on in the land of sports. What's happening with the Jazz. And I think again we're gonna start seeing more entitled athletes come because they're getting paid so quickly and so soon. Where they're already coming with a professional mentality of like, I need to get paid. If I don't go to the place I want to go to, I'm going to start doing this. I'm going to find loopholes not to go somewhere. And I think that's fine. I just really feel bad for the Utah Jazz fans. I mean, it's a tough way to kind of have a young up and coming top 10 player come into your association, your organization. And he's like, I don't want to play for you guys. So hopefully he's able to mend that with, he's able to mend that with just moving forward. Okay, we got Kayla back. All right, now we can see her. She's back. All right, cool.
Sorry.
I'm just cool.
What was the thing that we heard?
I forgot. I kind of got sidetracked. What you're saying? I know you were talking about.
I was just saying that in my research, reading about Ace Bailey, came across when this occurred with the Curry family and the draft process and what it looked like, and how they said they wouldn't play, and then how it ended up working out. And I think. Yeah, the NIL definitely has negatively impacted, I feel like, sports more than positively, because you were always going to have kids that were going to play college ball. But now, they think they're worth more than they really are. Now, granted, if I was getting a shoe deal because I just happened to play lacrosse or some dumb shit, that would be awesome. But in the big scheme of things, it really hinders and takes away from the authenticity of draft processes and levels through careers. And I hope it works out. I hope that there's not going to be animosity. I hope he's going to play. I hope the fans accept him. But if not, he did it to himself, and not working out for the top 5 teams in the draft. That's crazy. That I would never, I feel like I would never have that sense of entitlement, but
And I think you went into it a little bit. Yeah, you went into it a little bit, so I mean, I'm not gonna hold too long because I know we want to get to all the MLB stuff that's going on, so we want to talk in depth about that. But I will say this: I just think that these athletes being able to get paid directly now that just passed over this summer, so maybe players are even able to earn even more line of income. I think it's with great power comes great responsibility. If you give too much and you don't earn, then it's going to be one of those situations where you're going to have to deal with what comes with that. And because these guys are basically getting paid in high school now and they're coming to college already making demands, and now they get worse when they get to the pro ranks, it's just really going to change the sport. And there's going to have to be some type of rules that come in. Somebody's going to have to be the bad guy to where, like, you're going to have to put a cap on it. You're going to say, hey, teams have this salary cap and that's it. So we'll see what happens with that going forward. I want to move into the MLB, right? There is, we're going to introduce a segment particularly for today.
I have one more head scratcher, real fast.
Oh, go ahead.
One more head scratcher.
Yep.
So it's just, we started this segment of stuff that makes us kind of go, huh? When we read it.
Yeah.
And so I was just, catching up on my reading the other day, and I came across the NBA and Greg Popovich, who was the longtime head coach of the San Antonio Spurs. And there was this whole long, in-depth article about them adjusting his career record to an amount of 77 games. And basically, long story short, because I know we do really want to talk about MLB, they removed the wins and losses last year. That's 32 and 45 record that the Spurs had, because he was on leave due to health conditions. And I just thought, after he missed the season, he announced his retirement, and they named the new head coach and everything. And then there's this whole in-depth article about why they moved the 77 games and why it's not credited to him. And I feel like that's a weird hill to die on. Like, he was still under contract, and while he may not have been on the bench, like, to make a big deal about one season and records and expose, like, the health conditions that he had again, and feel like it also needed to be a justification is like, that could have just been removed, and there could have been an asterisk put, and it didn't need to be made public. It just felt weird to bring up somebody who was so successful and just kind of, like, for lack of a better word, shit on him for having a health issue and take away wins. Like, I'm pretty sure he's happy that he has 40 less losses, but, like, why did this have to be such a big public spectacle?
Yeah, I real quick, I read that article too. I couldn't believe that the NBA did that. I mean, NBA's obviously made a lot of, like, stupid bonehead decisions over the years, including with the All-Star game. Again, we can do a episode on all the All-Star mistakes that they've made in the format of it alone. But I just feel like it's very classless, right? This is a guy that's considered very widely respected across the league as being not only a great coach, but a great person. And I just feel like they could have did that in silence. I agree with you wholeheartedly. And I just found it interesting that they kind of said, hey, these don't count. Seeming kind of like, just because he's not on the floor doesn't mean he doesn't impact the players off the floor. He could have still been, coming to practice. Hey guys, I'm okay. I'm going to motivate you guys. I want to kind of be behind the scenes, making sure that everybody's, playing hard and understand their roles, growing as players. Victor Wembanyama, right? His development into being a superstar and eventually being an impactful player in this league. So it's just sad. I mean, that they're going that direction, and hopefully they don't do another significant coach like that, but I find it hard to believe that he won't be the last. Just kind of what the NBA is at this point. We're going to move on to the MLB voting and introduce a segment this week called This or That, right? We're going to talk about pretty much the finalists this week for both the National League and the American League. Their votes are in, starters are named. Do we agree with them? Do we not? Kind of what our stances is. I wanted to make sure I was brief because I have so much to say about I think there were some snubs here. I think there were some folks that should be starting over others. And sadly, I have to, and I'm an Orioles guy. I love the Orioles, but I have to sadly say I think they got it wrong on one of the positions. And I love Jackson Holiday. I really do, but a lot to discuss. So why don't you kick us off, Kayla? You want to start? Because I have
Go ahead. So the MLB All-Star Game is next week, just cut that out. Then the All-Star game is just it's about a week and a half away. It's going to be in Atlanta this year. And for those who don't know, there's a voting process, multiple voting processes actually, on, who is eligible. It's really open to many players on different teams at the position, but there are usually a couple front runners who most of the votes end up going to. And so there's a period where, you're battling head to head with a position player. And that is the final round of voting. It's usually between 2 or 3 people. But for the American League, there are some people who are first time All-Stars or fans voted them in, or just edged out a couple people. We're going to talk about that. But we can just run through them. Starting in the American League, this came out Wednesday, and so right at the beginning of July. So at catcher, Seattle's Cal Raleigh. Designated hitter, the Orioles' Ryan O'Hearn. At first base, Toronto's Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Second base, Detroit's Gleyber Torres. Third base, Cleveland's Jose Ramirez. Shortstop, the Athletics' Jacob Wilson. And in the outfield, we have the Yankees' Aaron Judge, Detroit's Riley Green, and Detroit's also Javier Baez. In the National League, we have catcher Will Smith, and at designated hitter Shohei Ohtani from the Dodgers. Freddie Freeman also made it from the Dodgers. All 3 of them are from the Dodgers. He's at first base. The Diamondbacks will send Ketel Marte at second base. Manny Machado at third base from the Padres. Francisco Lindor comes in from the Mets at shortstop. And the outfield is interesting. Pete Crow Armstrong for the Cubs is starting alongside Kyle Tucker, and then Ronald Acuna Jr., the hometown hero from the Braves. So there were a couple positions that stood out to us that we're going to go through. And I think, there's some interesting tidbits, like Pete Crow Armstrong is a name that isn't known very well. But he's starting for the Cubs, and Javier Baez for Detroit. Well, at one point in their careers, they were traded for each other. And now they're starting in the All-Star game. So there's a couple things like that are pretty interesting. But looking at just breaking down some position players, ones that stood out, if we're starting in the National League, I apologize. I'm looking at Manny Machado. He went up against Max Muncy in the final stage of voting. Max Muncy was the third baseman for the Dodgers, where Manny Machado, again, is for the Padres. They're both pretty old. Machado's 32, Muncy's 34. So the fact that was the battle and what they thought was, the premier players at the position struck me a little funny. But at one point, Manny Machado signed the biggest free agent contract ever in American sports history. That was in 2019, $100 million, 10 years. But he's batting under 300 this year. And while he has 50 RBI and a bunch of hits, he's helping the Padres, but that is a mediocre number to me. Why is that being rewarded with an all-star game, let alone even in the final tallies of voting? And I just think that, Max Muncy at 34, when you think of the Dodgers, you don't think of Max Muncy. And are you telling me that there were no other options at third base? I find that odd. But obviously, if we're just talking about the 2 of them, Machado has had better statistics this year, even though and throughout his career with 3 additional seasons. But he does lead Max in career batting average and slugging and stuff like that. So I get it, but I do think it's odd that this is who the fans pretty much had to choose between. And then I think you had a battle at first base, right?
We're in the National League, right?
Yes.
Okay. I had a problem with one of the outfield positions, right? I think that look, I love Juan Soto to death. I think he's been definitely deserving. Well, I'm not gonna say deserving. I think it's controversial to say he's deserving of the current contract he's under, and I think he's played to where most Met fans you talk to, they say, well, I don't even know if he was worth that contract. It's just the numbers have ticked down. He hasn't been as effective as what the Mets thought that they were going to get with him. And I think that Kyle Tucker from the Cubs should be the outright starter over Juan Soto. this year. First off, look, Tucker is one of the rare players, right, that's delivering 17 home runs. He has 20 stolen bases by midseason. He's just fantastic. Literally, he's on pace to go 30 for 30. Like, I really wrote this down, like, when I was looking back into my notes and just watching him play this year. He's been doing it on both sides. And this is not to take away from how valuable Soto is for the Mets. I think he has better on-base percentage than Tucker. But I think if you're looking for a overall great player on both sides, hitting and also playing defense, I think you got to go with Tucker here. I think the voters got this one wrong. I really do. And I think that, they're going based off of the name, right? Juan Soto is a name in this league. And I think that Kyle Tucker, the Cubs, they haven't always been, they've been kind of an up and down franchise over the years. But Kyle Tucker has resurged this team. The Cubs are best baseball, I think, in some time. They're 52-35 as of today, Friday. And the Mets are currently 50-38. Both have outstanding records, but I think you look at the Cubs, you say, well, my God, the Cubs are actually a good team this year. They have a chance to make some noise and maybe even get to the playoffs, and we'll see what they do. But they don't get there without Tucker's impact on the field. And I just think that Tucker got robbed for the national side. I really do. I think he should be the outright starter over Juan Soto. I think Juan got it because of the name recognition and what he's been able to do for the Mets. Not taking away from him. He's a fantastic player, but I think Tucker's had the better production, even more so in terms of hitting and his efficiency on the offensive side more than what Soto's been so far for the Mets, my opinion, for the Nets.
Yeah, I gotcha. And I think a lot of people might feel similarly in the American League when they look at the positional breakdowns at shortstop. Kansas City's Bobby Witt Jr., who's really been becoming a face of the league, not just in Kansas City, but as a whole, got beat out by a player for the Sacramento Athletics, who's also
that's your team, though. That's your team.
I know, but if you think about it, your argument for Soto, it's a name that's known. He helps his team. Like when he comes up to the plate, you kind of like hold your breath if you're the opposing fan because you're like, oh my God, he's so impactful that like he can get a team out of any situation for the positive. Yep. And I didn't realize that Bobby Witt Jr. was only 25. Like I thought he was closer to 50. And so, he got beat out by Jacob Wilson. And it's also the first time a shortstop that was voted by the fans is going to start an all-star game. Wilson is also a rookie. And he's the first fan voted in that selection voted in. He's also the first shortstop since 1974 for the A's. A name Bert Campaneris might sound familiar to some people. And there hasn't been an athletic that started in an all-star game since 2014. It's been a decade. And not only has it been a decade, but it's a fan vote. It's a rookie who beats a face of the league. Like that. I'm so happy that analytics did not determine this matchup. Fans literally did vote just like they did for everybody else.
Yeah.
It was a really close vote. It was 52-48%. But I'm hopeful, not just because I'm an A's fan, but you really want to look at the impact these players are having on their teams and why, that's significant. We talked about Machado and Muncy, and it's like Machado isn't just there, but in the sense of impact, like they're so well rounded on the teams that they're on that don't stand out. But Wilson is second in the majors in hits, only behind Aaron Judge. He's batting a .339, which is also only behind Aaron Judge. And he has 34 multi-hit games this year. Like he started the season on a 13-game hit streak, and that was quiet until he kept getting hits and getting homers. And, he's only the second ever rookie shortstop also. The last one that started a game was in 1960. So it's looking at the impact. Wilson has a much bigger impact on the Athletics, dare I say, than Bobby Witt on the Royals this season. So looking at this season and looking at what has happened in the first half, I'm really happy to see that fans are actually looking into it, and it's not just numbers and it's not just by name. But that was a shocker to me because not only did he get in only because fans, voted him originally, but then actually winning is I hope they don't trade him away.
Yeah, it's tough for the small market teams. It's just tough, like just keeping those when you have a great player, keeping them in there because I mean the budget and just the purse they're playing with is just not the same. It's not the same. I totally hear your case on that. I love the Orioles to death. I really do. I'm a big Oriole fan. And I hate that I gotta do this. I love Jackson Holiday. He's playing his first official full season with the O's. I know he started partially midway through the year. I think in the first half of the year he started some games, and then he kind of fizzed a little bit. He was good in places, right? You can see the potential, but he wasn't quite there yet. I love how he's developed this year, but I do not think he's an outright starter over, especially on the American side. Being out Detroit's Gleyber Torres. I just don't see that, because here's my thing. I think when you look at the stats, so you put it head to head, right? I think Holiday has great upside. And again, I'm an Orioles fan talking, right? I love Jackson Holiday. I love the future for this kid. But I think he was handed this spot because of he's the young new toy that's kind of up and coming. And, he's the name to watch out for because of what he's produced on the field. And he has produced great stats so far for a rookie. But in terms of what Gleyber Torres has done for the Detroit, like it's been, the guy has only hit more home runs than Holiday statistically. He's experienced. He has 43 RBIs over 73 games. So he's had a strong impact for Detroit and has sparked them to the point where you got to look out for Detroit as we start to get into the second half of the season. I love this, but I think a case can even be made for Gunnar Henderson, right? This year and over Jackson Holiday in consideration. I just think that is one of those situations where I think experience kind of trumps a little bit of the youth right now with Holiday. I just think that, when you look at the stats and you look at when you put them head to head, I think that, Torres is more impactful than Holiday. It's not to say that Holiday is not good. Right, we know he's good. We know he has a better upside. I think at this point, 3 years from now, it could be flipped in terms of their production. But I just feel like I don't know, man. It's just like you kind of get we're kind of victims of the moment, right? We see a kid that has a good stretch, and we're saying this is the next blah. And I'm like, let this guy get some years. He just got on the field like full time. Like last year, we were like, get this kid out. Take him back down to AAA, let him figure it out. He's not ready. And I'm like, I still remember that. And I'm happy for Jackson Holiday's arc of him and his redemption tour this year, despite the O's obviously struggling because of key injuries to their pitching rotation and just not being able to figure it out with just the free agents they bought in. I don't think they were impactful as the ones they let go. And now they got some decisions to make going forward with Mullins and other guys who may not be there next year to kind of make up for the O'Hearn, Holiday, and the young core that they're trying to keep intact. So it's just going to be a youth movement in Baltimore, but I just don't think he was ready to be the outright starter over Torres this year. That's just my case. I'm just saying. I think America should take a look at the stats and take a look at the experience on this one, and just it will tell you that I think he's the better overall player and deserving of that starter spot.
Yeah, well, you did mention Ryan O'Hearn. Do you want to talk about how he's a player that you're watching in the All-Star game period?
So he's not necessarily a player I'm watching. I put this there as just being a biased Orioles fan, right? Right. I think that O'Hearn's has to show out because I think that the O's need a spark. They need to really have some momentum. And I feel like if the two O's perform well, obviously Holiday and O'Hearn in the All-Star game, it will set up for them to maybe have a late surge in the second half of the season because they're like not too far off from 500. I think if they can, get a spark, get going, and that carries over to the second half of the season, they can get to that 90 win mark or 80 late 80s mark. They can probably slip into the playoffs. I think they're a team that can, and folks start to get healthy, which will think it's a lot of ifs, right? But I think if they can kind of figure that out, I think that the O's have a chance to make a late push into the playoffs. But I think my guy to watch for, my dark horse to watch for All-Star MVP this year is actually, that's yours. Let me move it down. Sorry, guys. Sorry. Where is it? I'm watching Josh Naylor this year. Is Is that mine or yours? Anyways, he's batting very well. He's batting 320 plus, slugging well over 500. You know, he's leading. He's one of the league leaders among RBIs right now. I think he's not being talked about enough. I think he can. You know, he's known to have big game energy. Right. I think in this case, with what's coming up, he can definitely be effective because. You know, in terms of being a lefty versus a right heavy lineup that's being ready to come, that could really benefit him to have a huge day hitting. I think that we could see a situation where he can have a very good day and come out of this thing and pretty much, you know, capture the MVP for the All-Star. So I think that he's a name that's kind of going under the radar for me. I always root for the dark horse because they never get talked about. We all love you know, a story we can kind of get behind, but how about if he wins that thing and nobody talked about him, and he's kind of like the guy that kind of shares up his career in terms of being one of the elite difference makers in the MLB. But that's my pick.
Yeah, I play fantasy baseball, and I only have one first baseman on my team, and it's Josh Naylor, and got him at a good ADP, you know, back in the spring, and every time he is in the lineup, he shows out. He gets the positive points, and honestly, that's all I'm going for because it's so easy to get minus points at the end of the day in fantasy baseball that I'm good with your 4 points every day.
Right.
Very consistent, and that talks to what an all-star is: making a big impact, being consistent, being successful. So, Josh Naylor, shout out to you on my Miller Time Beer Chuggers fantasy team. But I have a couple talk about somebody who's not being talked about a lot. I will say that trajectory has changed a little bit in recent weeks just because of how dominant Seattle catcher Cal Raleigh has been this year. He should be in the conversation for MVP. He's right, just like Jacob Wilson, just behind Aaron Judge in key MLB categories. He already has 33 home runs, and the All-Star break hasn't even come yet. 71 RBIs, 85
Oh my
hits.
God. He's been lighting it up, man.
He's a catcher, and he's come around to score 60 times. So not only does he bat in runs, he gets on base, and he has smart base running to score for Seattle.
Right.
And Seattle's going to be fighting for one of those wild card spots again. And he could be the first catcher since Salvador Perez in 2015 to win MVP. I think it's really hard for catchers to win, but if there's ever going to be a season for it to be done, it has to be that. Like, how can you look at Cal Raleigh and the impact he has on the Mariners and in the majors and be like, Aaron Judge is better just because of his name? Like, this is the year.
Right. I'll tell you, man, I think the MLB, it has some stories for sure. I think you have a lot of good mix of veteran elite players. Teams have traded for each other that have still been all-stars and stuff. So it's going to be interesting to see how these teams play moving forward, especially the game be coming up pretty soon. So we'll have to watch that closely as well. Look, we loved y'all so much. We were here for over an hour because we said we haven't put anything out in some time, which I'm very cool with because, like, at the end of the day, we love to talk sports. We love to talk about anything that's kind of going on in our lives. We will definitely be back again very, very soon.